Okay, welcome to Hanging Out with Bob, a podcast hosted by me, Bob Edholm. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started. In a recent podcast episode, my friend John Lawrence of Northeast Minneapolis, also a frequent guest on this podcast, actually interviewed me about my memories of the late, great Met Center in Bloomington, Minnesota. I shared with John that I had worked there in the mid-1970s, selling beer and peanuts at various events, from rock concerts to boxing matches to Minnesota North Stars hockey games, especially North Stars hockey games. Those games usually drew huge crowds, which meant I sold lots of beer and peanuts from my portable bar located in the concourse of Met Center. But there's one North Stars game that I worked at but didn't really get into when John interviewed me, and that's a game that was played on January 4th, 1975, a long time ago. So long ago that I was in my 20s in the 70s. Now I'm in my 70s in the 20s. This is a story about two hockey players who faced off against each other in a game played in early 1975. In that game, one player attacked the other, causing serious damage to that other player and eventually ending his career. But it would be another 51 years before both players met face-to-face, before there was true reconciliation. This is part one of a two-part episode called Skating Clean, a story of reconciliation. Let me set the stage. It was a Saturday night. The weather in Minneapolis and St. Paul that day was cold and mostly dry. We had a high temperature near 24 degrees Fahrenheit. Not super cold, but not a January thaw either. At least there was no significant snowfall that day. But inside Met Center, the heat was definitely turned up because the North Stars were taking on the big, bad Boston Bruins. The Bruins had won the National Hockey League's Stanley Cup trophy in 1970 and 1972, and they had three superstars on that squad: Bobby Orr, Johnny Bucyk, and Phil Esposito, all of whom are now in the Hockey Hall of Fame. The announced crowd was 15,526, at that point the largest crowd of the 1974-75 season. Now, like I said, my job at Met Center was to sell beer and peanuts from my portable bar. We were busiest at three different times during a hockey event. The first busy time was the 45 minutes to an hour before the opening puck drop. The second busy time was the 15-minute intermission between the first and second periods. And the third busy time was the 15-minute intermission between the second and third periods. And what that meant was, once the game started, say 5 minutes or so into it, I could sometimes make the short walk from my portable bar to the section portal that connected the concourse to the seats, just to peek down at the ice and see the game. Of course, being the responsible bartender, or beer tender, that I was, I would keep turning around in case a customer walked up to my portable bar. Well, about 8 minutes into the game that night, the Bruins scored on a goal by Johnny Bucyk, with assists from Phil Esposito and Bobby Orr, the same three guys I mentioned earlier, who are now in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it was Boston 1, Minnesota nothing. And as soon as that goal was scored, wouldn't you know it, there was a customer standing by my portable bar. So, like I had done dozens of times before, I walked back to pour him a nice cold brewski. Greenbelt, I think. But while I was serving that customer, three more fellows walked up to the bar and wanted beer. Nothing unusual about that. Besides, I was getting paid to sell beer, not watch hockey games. Well, less than 25 seconds had ticked off the scoreboard clock when play was stopped again. That's because at 8:22 of the first period, the Bruins' Dave Forbes checked the North Stars' Henry Boucha into the corner boards. Boucha spun and punched Forbes, and several players from both sides piled in. In fact, a Boston player, for the record his name was Terry O'Reilly, was thrown out of the game for being what they called the third man in the fight. See, in the National Hockey League, or NHL for short, if two players fight, The officials will often let those two go at it for a while before they break it up and send them to the penalty box for fighting. But if a third man jumps into that fight, he would get kicked out of the game. Anyway, back to Forbes and Boucha. The two men, shall we say, exchanged words from their respective penalty boxes while they were serving their 7-minute terms there. As things turned out, I stayed busy selling beer for the next several minutes. I never got a chance to step away from my portable bar to sneak a peek for the rest of that first period. But then I heard this disturbingly loud chorus of boos coming from the faithful North Stars crowd. I say disturbing because I've heard people booing during a hockey game, but not like what I heard then. And the boos were going on for an unusually long time. There was a guy next to me, his name was Chris, who had a kiosk that was set up to sell North Stars merchandise, things like pennants, team hats, toy-sized helmets and sticks, collector pins, that kind of stuff. I looked over at Chris and said, "What's going on out there?" Chris had another person working with him that night, so he stepped away from his kiosk and walked into the portal to look down on the ice. He was also talking to an usher who was standing there. A few minutes later, Chris came back to his kiosk. He looked at me, shaking his head, and said, "They carried Henry Boucha off the ice on a stretcher." The usher said Forbes hit Boucha in the eye with the end of his stick and kept on hitting Boucha when he fell to the ice. There was blood all over the ice. I looked at Chris and said, "Wow." I mean, I'd seen lots of hockey games and plenty of hockey fights, but for one guy to hit another guy with the butt end of a stick, then jump on that guy and keep hitting him as he's lying on the ice face down and bleeding all over the ice? Man, that's just dirty. Just the thought of that kind of violence, it really bothered me. And not actually seeing it, but only hearing about it, made me feel even more outraged. I have an online subscription to the Minnesota Star-Tribune archives, and thanks to that resource, I was able to go back to January 1975 and do a deep dive into that game and its aftermath. I found all kinds of information there. The first story I read was written by then Minneapolis Tribune staff writer John Gilbert. The story appeared the next morning in the Sunday Tribune, the front page of the sports section. The headline read, "Boucha is mauled in Stars 8-0 loss." I think that's the first and still the only time I saw the word mauled, M-A-U-L-E-D, used in a sports page headline. As Gilbert described it, when Forbes and Boucha left their respective penalty boxes at the same time, Forbes followed Boucha and knocked him bleeding to the ice with a blow from the butt end of his stick to Boucha's face. Forbes then jumped on top of Boucha, who was sprawled face down in a widening pool of blood, and continued punching him. Gilbert also quoted some Met Central officials who said it was the most savage assault they had ever witnessed. No wonder those North Star fans were booing the way they did, right? Well, Boucha was carried from the ice by stretcher and taken to Methodist Hospital in suburban St. Louis Park, where he was kept overnight. He had suffered extensive lacerations over the right eyebrow and eyelid, extending through the eyelid. Preliminary x-rays showed no fracture, but additional x-rays were to be taken that morning. There was no injury to the eyeball itself, it was reported. Still citing that article by John Gilbert, he wrote that an official working in the area between the two penalty boxes said that during the penalties, Forbes held up a clenched fist and shouted across to Boucha, "I'll get you, and I won't use this. I'll shove my stick down your throat." After that attack, Forbes was given what was called a match misconduct penalty for deliberate attempt to injure, which meant he'd been kicked out of the game. A 10-minute major penalty was also issued. Boucha's teammate, a player named Murray Oliver, received a match misconduct penalty too, for being the third man in a fight, although Oliver's presence may have prevented further injury to Boucha. In the article, Oliver stated, quote, "I was skating up the wing. Forbes came out of the penalty box and let Henry have it from behind with a butt end. I saw the blood right away, and Henry went down, face first. He obviously couldn't see because of the blood, and Forbes jumped on his back and was still throwing punches. It was still going through my mind that I might be saving his life, Boucha's life, if I could pull Forbes off." End quote. Now again, the score was 1-0 when that attack on Boucha happened. There were still almost 12 minutes left to play in that first period. But because I was at my portable bar pouring beer, I missed all of that. However, some customers got up from their seats and came up to my bar and ordered beer. If I'd been a customer that night, I might have done the same thing. Anyway, when I asked one of the customers what he saw, he shook his head and said, "The biggest cheap shot I've ever seen." He was talking about Forbes' attack on Boucha, of course. That first period ended with the score still 1-0. However, in the second period, the visiting Bruins scored six more goals to make it 7-0, and then they added another in the third and final period to make the final score 8-0. The Bruins were a better team, both on paper and on the ice, but I think the North Stars could be forgiven that night if they had trouble concentrating on hockey after that first period incident. So, that was the game I was at. Well, I was in the building where that game was played, but I didn't see the most shocking event of the evening, when Forbes attacked Boucha. By the way, Boucha needed about 30 stitches from that incident. That's 30 stitches. So who was Henry Boucha? And who was Dave Forbes? Let me briefly cover their lives up to that game between the North Stars and Bruins in January 1975. Let's start with Boucha. Henry Charles Boucha. He was born in 1951 in Warroad, Minnesota, a town just 7.5 miles south of the Canadian border, way up north. One of 9 kids in his family, an Ojibwe Native American. Oh, Henry. He was a legend, a Minnesota hockey legend, long before he came to the Minnesota North Stars in 1974. At Warroad High School, he excelled in all sports, not just hockey, but also football, baseball, and track. He was a 3-time All-State hockey player. Tall and powerfully built, Boucha led Warroad to the 1969 state hockey tournament, where he was injured in an emotionally charged 5-4 final overtime loss to Edina. It was one of the all-time classic games in Minnesota State hockey tournament history. I was a sophomore in high school that year, 1969, and I clearly remember watching that game on our family's black and white television set. And like practically everyone in Minnesota who was not from Edina, I was pulling for Warroad to win. After high school, Boucha signed a letter of intent for a full scholarship to play at the University of Minnesota. But instead of becoming a Golden Gopher, he decided to play for the Winnipeg Jets of the Western Canadian Hockey League for the 1969-70 season. Due to the Vietnam War, Boucha was drafted by the U.S. Army in August 1970 and went to basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. While in the military from 1970 to 1972, he competed internationally in the 1970 and 1971 World Hockey Championships, and also the 1972 Winter Olympics, earning a silver medal in Sapporo, Japan, for Team USA. Boucha was drafted 16th overall in 1971 by the Detroit Red Wings, and was the Red Wings' Rookie of the Year in the 1972-73 season. He was traded to the Minnesota North Stars in August of 1974. The game with the Boston Bruins would follow just 5 months after that trade. While Henry Boucha was already a Minnesota legend long before 1975, I'd never heard of Dave Forbes before that North Stars Bruins matchup, to be honest. David Stephen Forbes was a Canadian, born in the province of Quebec, in the greater Montreal area in 1948. So he was a couple 3 years older than Boucha. Unlike Boucha, Forbes was not a Minnesota hockey legend, but he grew up to be a very good hockey player in Canada, because he attended American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts on a hockey scholarship. And just a quick aside here, during the 1974-75 NHL season, when the hockey game we've been talking about was played, just under 93% of the players were Canadian. By contrast, in the 2025-26 season, it's about 45% Canadian, 33% American, and the rest mainly European and Russian. Back to Dave Forbes. He was named a college All-American in 1971. He then signed to play for the Oklahoma City Blazers of the Central Hockey League. Forbes joined the Boston Bruins as a free agent in 1973, and he helped guide the Bruins to the Stanley Cup Finals in 1974 during his rookie season. So he was in his third year in the NHL when the Bruins traveled to Minnesota for that fateful game in January 1975. Okay, back to that game on January 4th. The Boston Bruins beat the Minnesota North Stars 8-0. Henry Boucha was attacked by Dave Forbes during the first period of that game and was taken to the hospital to receive stitches and undergo further tests on that injured right eye. But what happened next? Again, the Star Tribune archives provided me with many of those details. On January 6, 1975, just 2 days after the night Boucha was mauled, Tribune columnist Sid Hartman reported that Forbes had called Boucha on Sunday, the day after the game, to apologize. But Sid also wrote that Forbes hadn't convinced Boucha that he didn't try to injure him. Boucha told Sid, quote, "I was sure I had lost sight of my eye at first. We had some words while we were both in the penalty box. I didn't see Forbes coming at me when he came out of the penalty box. He not only speared me, but then he jumped on my back while I was bleeding," unquote. Sid added a couple more jottings in his column. He noted that Dr. Franklin Seidel, the North Stars team physician, said that there was no damage to Boucha's eye, but that Boucha was very fortunate not to have been hit an inch lower. Sid also wrote that Boucha's eye was swollen shut on that Sunday, but when the eyelids were pulled apart, Boucha could see. The doctors, at that time, believed that Boucha would be able to play within a week. That same day in the Tribune, January 6th, there was a short article with no byline with the headline, "Boucha seen recovering fully." The article stated that Boucha had been released from Methodist Hospital Sunday, and doctors reported that they expected him to recover fully from the eye injury he suffered on Saturday night. The article also added that Boucha did not accompany the team to Kansas City, where the North Stars were to play that Monday evening. He was also expected to miss Wednesday's game against Los Angeles at Met Center. But the article stated that Boucha may be able to play by the weekend if the swelling around the eye subsided. Just a quick aside here. For any fan of the National Hockey League, you know there is no NHL franchise in Kansas City today. They were the Kansas City Scouts. That's what the team was called. Since 1976, they've moved 2 times. They were the Colorado Rockies from 1976 to 1982. Interesting, since the Major League Baseball team in Denver since 1993 is also called the Colorado Rockies. Since 1982, those original Hockey Rockies have been called the New Jersey Devils. And by the way, the current NHL franchise in Colorado, the Avalanche, moved to Denver in 1985 from Quebec, where they were called the Nordiques. Okay, back to the story. Things took a dramatic turn just a couple days after the January 4th hockey game. On January 6th, Tribune staff writer John Gilbert reported that then Hennepin County Attorney Gary Flackney said his office was conducting a preliminary investigation into the attack on Henry Boucha by Dave Forbes. Flackney had stated that his office's investigators were gathering information for the Hennepin County grand jury and had heard statements from Boucha and other North Stars who may have witnessed the incident. In the article, Flackney stated, quote, "This investigation is what we would be doing on any similar case, which did not have the emphasis that this one has as a sports event," unquote. On Tuesday, January 14th, Dave Forbes was indicted by the Hennepin County Grand Jury for aggravated assault in connection with the January 4th attack on Henry Boucha during that North Stars Bruins game. It was a page 1 story in the January 15th Tribune, the front page of the A section, not the sports pages. Staff writers John Gilbert and Doug Stone shared the byline. They reported that the indictment was a felony, and it was believed to be the first time an NHL player had been indicted for conduct during a game. The grand jury had heard testimony from Boucha himself, his teammate Murray Oliver, a detective of the Bloomington Police Department, a deputy Hennepin County sheriff who was attending the game, and the North Stars team physician. Boucha said in an interview afterward that he had, quote, mixed emotions about the entire episode. He said he was surprised by the indictment, but also hoped it might help prevent future incidents. And this is interesting. In that same story, it reported that preliminary x-rays immediately after the incident on January 4th disclosed no fracture to Boucha's eye. However, when the swelling subsided, Boucha had complained of double vision, and on Friday, January 10th, further x-rays did disclose a fracture. As a result, surgery was performed the next morning, a Saturday. But in that same story, Boucha stated that doctors told him it was just a matter of time until the double vision would go away, that it might take 2 to 5 weeks, but the doctors assured him there would be no permanent damage. Also on Wednesday, January 15th, then National Hockey League President Clarence Campbell issued a 10-game suspension to Dave Forbes for his attack on Henry Boucha in that game played at Met Center on January 4th. Not surprisingly, the decision by Clarence Campbell was met with differing reactions. Boston players called the penalty too harsh, but some officials were surprised that the suspension was so short, particularly in view of Forbes' indictment for aggravated assault by a Hennepin County grand jury. Harry Sinden, who was then general manager of the Bruins, said that the 10-game suspension without pay was, quote, a tremendously excessive penalty. It's very, very severe, Sinden told the Associated Press. It amounts to 1/8 of his salary. That's Forbes' salary. Dave has had a clean record until now, and for a first-time loser, the penalty is very tough, unquote. Sinden went on to say, quote, I think the suspension is totally out of line with penalties imposed in the past for such incidents. This is a tremendously excessive penalty. I don't think he, Forbes, should have been suspended at all, unquote. And that's going to take us to the end of part 1 of Skating Clean, a story of reconciliation. In part 2 of this episode, we'll talk about the criminal trial of Dave Forbes and the decades that followed in the aftermath of that trial, both for Forbes and for Henry Boucha. And again, to our listeners, thanks for hanging out with me, Bob Edholm. Be sure to catch part 2 of Skating Clean, a story of reconciliation, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Until then, bye.